Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you all, our viewers today, and welcome to the THRIN Archival Conversations. It is May 30th, and we are grateful for life today. The THRIN Archival Conversations are brought to you by Trans and Intersex History Africa, THRIN. And at THRIN, we collect, we honor, and we archive the histories of trans and intersex individuals and organizations from Africa on the continent, both on the continent and in the diaspora. And you can find all these collections that we do through the conversations, interviews away from the studio, sharing from trans people across Africa. You can find those valuable collections on our website, at Trans and Intersex history.africa. If anybody's in the studio, please help us and write that website down there for our viewers so that they can find more of the histories out there. Well, my name is Victor Mukasa, and on this special day of these archival conversations, I'm beyond honored to sit with someone who has not only shaped intersex and trans discourse in Nigeria, but has also taken that work to global heights. Mix Emmanuella David-ette. If she can be brought to the studio. Yes, Mix Emmanuella David-ette. I'm sorry if I stammer around your name. I will tell you why, and then I will need to be educated. But Mix Emmanuella David-ette is an intersectional and inclusive feminist and a womanist who advocates for the rights of intersex and trans people globally. She pioneered the movement around intersex issues and our intersectionality with sexual orientation and gender identity since 2013 in Nigeria. She also is an advocate for women and children. She's the executive program coordinator of THRIN or DIHHR, which is Dynamic Institute for Healthcare and Human Rights in Nigeria. She is also the CEO of Athenella Media Hub. We'll hear more about all these things during the conversation. So, as an information scientist from the University of Ibadan, Oyo State, she was awarded as one of Nigeria's most inspiring women breaking boundaries in 2022, and that was by Leading Ladies Africa. She is also a South Learning Network champion and currently the first, mark the word first, the first African lady to be awarded the WPATH Harry Benjamin Distinguished Individual Advocacy Award worldwide in September 2024. She has created awareness around intersectionalities and pioneered the trans and intersex movement, taking it to this stage of its visibility globally. Mix Emmanuella David-ette. Welcome to this show. Now, I have three things that I would like you to begin with. Number one, just say hi to the viewers and listeners now and in the future today. And also, if as fun fact, please tell us one fun fact about you, one fun fact about Nigeria, after letting our viewers know where Nigeria is located exactly on the continent of Africa. The mic is yours, Mix Emmanuella.
Okay. One fun fact about me. I love showbiz. I love music, and at times I just love being on my own. And I love teaching. I love teaching. I love educating. I love educating. I love researching. I love knowledge. Yes, that's it. I love knowledge. I
That
love
explains a
science.
lot. While I was reading about you, I discovered that you're one of Nigeria's most popular women. But today I am very, very honored to sit with someone who has not only shaped intersex and trans discourse in Nigeria, but has taken that work to global heights. And that is none other than Mix Emmanuella David-ette. Mix Emmanuella David-ette is an intersectional and inclusive feminist, a womanist who advocates for the rights of intersex and trans people, persons globally. She pioneered the movement around intersex issues and our intersectionality with sexual orientation and gender identity since 2013 in Nigeria. She also is an advocate for women and children. She's the executive program director for Dynamic Initiative for Healthcare and Human Rights. She's also the CEO of Athenella Media Hub. As an information scientist from the University of Ibadan, Oyo State, she was awarded as one of Nigeria's most inspiring women breaking boundaries in 2022 by Leading Ladies Africa. She is also a South-South Learning Network champion and currently the first African lady to be awarded the WPATH Harry Benjamin Distinguished Individual Advocacy Award worldwide. That was in September 2024. She created awareness around the intersectionalities and pioneered the trans and intersex movement, taking it to this stage of its visibility globally. That is a stunning bio, Mix Emmanuella. Welcome to the show. Thank you for showing up and being patient with everything that has happened with the internet.
It's my pleasure.
Yes. As we begin, before we dive deep into the conversation, I'd like to do a small fun session. And that fun session is basically to tell us where Nigeria is on the continent of Africa, for those who might not know where it is. Number 2, a fun fact about you and one fun fact about Nigeria.
Okay. Nigeria is at the west side of Africa. It's Western Africa, and it's made up of indigenous tribes. We have the Hausa, Igbo, Yoruba, the Aquabomites. We have different tribes.
Very diverse.
Very diverse, and then very diverse cultures as well.
Right.
Very diverse cultures. Some very unique cultures that would make your jaws drop. Very interesting as well. Well, that's by the way. And then, like I was saying, as for me, I am someone that loves knowledge. I love knowledge. I understand that the society already tries to suppress me as a woman, let alone an intersex woman, let alone so I want to be a better version of myself every time, every day, and then challenge stereotypes. I like to challenge stereotypes. I understand that if you're around me, I could be withdrawn, but it doesn't mean I don't like company unless you say, hey, let's relate. And I say, okay, fine, let's relate. I love music, I love art. I love anything beautiful. I love making myself beautiful.
we see that, Emmanuella, and we are happy. We are all honored. The viewers and me, all of us in the studio, are happy to be in your company today. Now that you mentioned that you are an intersex woman that loves beauty, knowledge and all these things, perhaps to start with, for those who don't know, how would you define intersex? How would you describe intersex for people so that people can follow us in this conversation?
Okay. Okay, fine. It's an umbrella term for people born with sex characteristics that don't fit the typical male or female pattern. And most times there is a misconception around it that, okay, the person must have both genitalia, but it's usually variation, you know, between the chromosomes, among the chromosomes, the genitals, the hormones, the internal reproductive organs, and the external reproductive organs. So you see some persons could give off being female. Let me give an example of castasemania, and then having external vagina, but somehow within themselves they have testes and all of that. So there's this variation, which is contrary to the media sensation that says, the intersex person must have two obvious genitals, like the penis and the vagina and all of that. So being intersex is an umbrella term for people with, different or diverse sex characteristics. And this sex characteristics varies, So that's just it.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I think that is the beginning of education. You love knowledge, but we also love knowledge. You have taught a lot of people, and we are privileged to learn from you now. So for viewers out there, now and in the future, that was the description of what intersex is. And just a reminder, like we have done here before, in Africa, what we call hermaphrodite, what we call all those other derogatory terms is now correctly referred to as intersex. And therefore, we shall continue and advocate for that to go around. Now, we go back a little bit, Ms. Emmanuella, and it is your story, it is your history. Please feel free to share with us what you are comfortable with. And first, we are going to dive into your personal life, and we start with the question about your childhood. No, yeah, there's nothing about your childhood that you'd like to talk about.
No, feel free.
Oh, okay, all right. I thought this meant no, and we never go where people don't want us to. All right. Yeah. Please take us back down the journey of your life, where you grew up, the communities in which you grew up, and how that environment at home, school, markets, streets, churches, whatever it is in Nigeria, community, and what we mean by community in Africa, how all that shaped your sense of identity.
Okay. My journey cannot be complete without mentioning my family, my school, University of Ibadan.
Yes.
Because they showed me the support. My immediate friends, and then the CSO movement. It cannot just be complete. And I'll call some persons, but first and foremost, it started with me. There is this mindset: you're born into the world, and then you are fixed into a box because of a pronunciation from medical officials. This is a boy because of what they see, and then along the line, you're growing up, you're entering into puberty, and then your body starts, showing you that, oh, you're different.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm the first child, the only daughter. And, imagine being the first child as an only boy, then living in your dead gender. There's this responsibility that comes with it,
Right.
But as you move, you now realize, look, a lot of things are happening within your body that doesn't fit into the society's definition of gender, of sex. First and foremost, I was going through ovulation. Let's start from there. But I never knew it was ovulation. And I just felt, okay, maybe everyone goes through this.
As you felt that you're going through ovulation, what was your family at that point was seeing you as their boy child?
Exactly, as their boy child.
Right.
And that sort of made me withdraw because you know how it's, we're talking of something as far back as 2000, 2001, you know,
Yes.
during my puberty,
Right.
you know, and then people don't really pay attention to these things. It's either they feel this spiritual, and then, you know, anything outside that is abnormal and all of that. So I pretty much was withdrawn, trying to understand myself, trying to understand what was really happening. And then during puberty, your attraction, I noticed that I was, you know, attracted to men, but yet
Yes.
I had not worked on that. But I was still confused at what is going on, what's really happening. Well, as the journey continued, I had to do some hormonal profile, and then that's where they found female hormones higher than the male hormones.
Was
And
this in the supervision of your family, or were you seeking
yes,
this by yourself?
supervision of my family.
Right.
And you know how these things can be, which I don't blame them, because every family would have done that at the initial stage.
Yes.
The denial phase, it can't be possible, you know, my child is a guy and all of that. But I just moved on. I just needed to be happy, you know, I just needed to be happy. My body was being feminized over time. And then, but I knew deep down that there was something different until I entered University of Ibadan.
Yes.
And then the journey
begins.
took another dimension. And the VC, the vice chancellor then, was wonderful, was a wonderful man. The assistant registrar, which is still the assistant registrar now, she was wonderful, Mrs. Alawode Chinyere. And they had social workers, even my department's HOD, they were wonderful. They seemed enlightened, you know, about these issues. But that did not make me relate to it. I had lots of friends and I had lots of enemies. You know what I mean? People that they didn't understand why I was the way I was, because I could not stay. I stayed in the boys' hostel for like a year, 2 years, but I could not continue because a lot of things were happening, you know, within me. I had to stay away from campus, and then under the tutelage or under the supervision of the school UI, I was going through a series of tests, you know, hormonal tests. That's when they, what they call laparoscopy.
Laparoscopy.
Laparoscopy. And then they found 2 gonads inside, in addition to the ones outside. And it clicked. Everything clicked. Now, some school of thought would have said, oh, why don't you remove it? No, it doesn't work like that, because now that is where gender identity comes in.
Right.
In addition to the sex characteristics. So, you know, so they don't say, oh, that means this person has been intersex all this while, you know?
Yes.
And then, okay, how is your gender identity? And they realize, okay, the gender identity is female. My gender identity was female. The sex characteristics was intersex. And so there was a lot of, would they call it confusion? There was a lot of there was a lot of things happening at that time in school. I was going through depression. I had to stay with my family for a pretty long time because I didn't want anything. I didn't want anybody to tell me, you see, God does not make mistake. God does not do this and all of that. And I came from a religious background. Let me give you an expo. I was a pastor.
A pastor?
Yes.
Wow.
Who was being groomed, and I also had to study. Like, okay, am I? What's really wrong with me? What's really unique about me? And you can imagine the conflicts.
Yeah.
Both from the religious angle, both physical, but everything was just enormous. And then there were times I was relating with, and there were times I became internally transphobic.
Transphobic.
Yes.
Yeah.
And no, okay, now I knew I'm intersex. So if you call, then the doctors were like, you see, these trans people, they made it like a choice, that kind of thing. They try to,
Like you're choosing to
yes.
do that.
And so I pandered towards that narrative. I'm talking of 2009.
In Nigeria.
Nigeria. It's 9. And so you see, you're intersex, you are natural. They try to give that. Now, this story I'm telling you would form the basis of dynamic initiative. I will form the basis for.
We will get to dynamic initiative. Being
intersectional and inclusive.
Because and we will get back there, because now I'm seeing how, because this is what you're focused on, connecting those pieces. And it is lacking a lot in our activism. So this is a very good moment for all of us. Your family, friends, community, school before Ibadan University. How did they take? Were you open about what was happening to you? How did family take this new information that they were getting?
Okay, of course. Presently, they have shifted base, but in the past, it was horrible. It was horrible. There was a time they took me to the hospital, loose in Lagos. And then they told the doctor that I was mentally unstable and all of that. And the doctor looked at me and the doctor said, what's her name? What's her name? They said, no, it's not a her, it's a he. Because you could visibly see that I was beautiful for a guy. And the doctor said, okay, what's the name? And they told the doctor my name, and the doctor looked at me. And it seemed as if, and one of the nurses there who held my hand, because I was at the psychiatric section, held my hand so that I wouldn't run. And the doctor looked at me and saw how helpless I was and said, oh, I know what this is about. And then took me inside. Traumatic. Yes, the doctor took me inside. And then when we got talking, the doctor said, you're intersex. And then understood everything, yes. And said that it's not me that needs the psychiatric evaluation, it's actually my family. And so my family had to be involved, in the whole process. They called a doctor from the UK then. I can't remember the name, it was a lady. And then she came and they saw that this person is obviously intersex, if you're saying that the person, and from there, well, within the medical field, there was a mixed, there were some open-minded people as at then. Family, the fact that they could not accept it then, was it was also bothersome, because my mom was, it was taking a toll on her health. But there was nothing I could do, because I myself, I knew that come what may, and that was the truth that was my guiding force. Come what may, I will live this life. I will live this life. You know what that means? It means that your parents would live before you. You get what I'm saying? And they'll leave you in this world to face the choices you have made. And so it dawned on me that, look, I know it's not an easy thing. It's not an easy journey. And there was a time I hated them, but there was a time I said, you know what, for my peace, let me give everyone space to learn and unlearn while I go on my personal journey.
Right. So it's very obvious, because we can only imagine, we cannot get exactly how the situation was, but those must have been dark times where families trying to navigate, you're trying to navigate, everybody around you that cares about you is trying to navigate this, what they call a new thing, this, what they thought was a problem of witchcraft and stuff like that. It must have been very difficult, and I'm so grateful to the universe that you're still here and that you are able to tell your story and amplify the voice of other intersex people in Africa, because many times this is not unique to us. But when we speak up, then we are speaking up for somebody who cannot. So I thank you so much for what you do. So after all that struggle, how did all that struggle during your childhood, adolescence, and all into the university, how did it shape your activism? How do you now come into activism? Because we are very interested in hearing the work that you have done over the years.
Okay. I just wanted to live a quiet, simple life, move on from all the drama and all of that. And then probably when I sort myself, get married to a handsome, cute, rich man and all of that. And then we just do things quiet. But
Right.
I remember when I was in school, the doctors would tell me, you see, as an intersex person, these are cisgender men, the cisgender people,
Yes.
they would, some of them would say, you see, God created you as this. Why don't you just take out the gonads? And while some would say, you could hear the transphobia within
Yes.
them. Why don't
Yes.
you just focus, you're an intersex person, just be an intersex person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Don't try to say you are trans or anything, but just be an intersex. So I saw all of those things, and I had to sit back and tell myself, wait, is it possible for an intersex person to have diverse gender identities? And the answer clicked. Yes, it's possible. We have some cisgender men or cisgender persons that don't know that they have intersex conditions. We have
Yeah.
trans. I sat down to say, wait a minute. This is not something that a cisgender person would answer. This is not something that somebody outside there would answer.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I've gotten the story. I've gotten who I am. I need to live my life. I went for youth service in the north, far north, Kaduna. And
Yes.
and we all know how Kaduna can be.
How can
Kaduna
it be?
It is volatile. It's predominantly, not really Kaduna, the north, predominantly Islam, Muslim.
Ah.
And I was really shaking. I was afraid because as at then, even though the school was fast tracking some things, they even wanted me to do some surgeries, take me out, but it was also coming at a time when I needed to do my youth service. One of the doctors who did this laparoscopy just told me that he would advise me to be happy with my life, move on with my life. The assistant registrar, Mrs. Alawode Chinyere, was talking to me in her office and said, "Ella, I see you. You're going to have a movement, an NGO that's going to touch lives like you, intersex people, trans people." And then she even stretched it to sexual orientation. Who was
Wow.
I? Who was I? I didn't want that. I wanted to just live a solo life, a quiet life.
Right.
And then she just told me that. And over here we pray. She just prayed for me, and I moved on. When I went to the north, I lived this quiet life. I was on my own. I stayed in a 2-bedroom flat all by myself. I was serving with the government office, which was CBN, Central Bank of Nigeria. And you can visibly see men crushing on me. And I'm scared because, my goodness, what's happening? The person I was reporting to was seemed deep. He sat me down one day and we got talking. And when he asked me some questions because he observed that I was reserved, despite the fact that I could be, I was performing very well within the office. He asked me some questions, and I told him, and he said, look, these are issues that has always been with us, but they didn't just have a name for it. And he was open. He was progressive.
Right.
And he asked me my next plan. My next plan was to, what most people do, run out of the country. After youth service, run out of the country. So I applied for asylum at the Netherlands embassy when my youth service was rounding up, because it's always a year.
Yes.
Netherlands embassy. And then I came to Abuja to follow it up. And when I came to Abuja, I went to the European Union then. I went there. I met with one lady. She looked at me. I gave her a note. I told her I needed asylum. I was there. I was bold. And she looked at me like this. I said, you're too beautiful. You say you have a degree. I said, yes, I have a degree. You said you want to, when she enumerated everything, you said you are intersex and you're intersex. I said, yes. I said, no. You can't go. I'm going to connect you with an NGO. And that's how she connected me with an NGO under the care of Stefano Fabeni.
Yes, I remember that one.
And Zahraddin Gambo.
Zahraddin Gambo. Greetings to you all, comrades. Yes.
Yes. And then that was the first time Global Initiative for Sexuality and Human Rights, Global Initiative for Sexuality and Human Rights initiative was trying to, that was the first time. So when I went there to meet him, he was looking at me like, and you are trans or intersex? And there was this look like, is it real? You know, that kind of thing. And so I did the interview. I was given an opportunity. And then from there, we started. There was one thing that caught his attention. I don't know if he sees this, he'll remember. Yes. There was a time we were traveling by road to Port Harcourt. Was it by road? Not to Port Harcourt. We went by flight and by road. We went by road. And then I started having the ovulation. And it can be very painful. And Zahraddin and Fabeni were concerned. I was holding my tummy and screaming, and we had to wait. Made me relaxed. And when I came back, one of those times we were talking, he asked me, Ella, you have seen what is happening, because we laid the foundation. We're laying the foundation for trans programming, for intersex programming. What would you want to do? I told him that I just wanted to live a quiet life, just quiet life, lay the foundation and rent a ghost. And and then he said, you could start a movement. You could do this. You could do that. Right. Create awareness. And I asked him how. He said, you're good with internet, you're good with social media, you're good with this. And then I used my Facebook, opened the Facebook page, and then it was called Trans and Intersex People for Human Rights in Nigeria, for human rights. And
you
then
still use that name, right? TIP for human rights in Nigeria.
Yes.
I kind of like it, but I'm glad that it is also still there.
And so we're always talking, and then he seemed to understand, okay, because I was born, in the wrong sex, physically, outwardly, externally.
Yes.
But the fact that there were two goners inside made it intersex. And that was now when the intersectionality came in. This person is intersex and this person is trans.
Yes.
And so you can imagine my would I call it sadness over the years when I see some politics being played with the movements, trans here, intersex here, this, because I'm like, we need to come together.
This is very important conversation.
And see the common denominator.
Right.
That thing, so that we can intelligently
Yes.
tackle every unconscious biases registered in the minds of people out there.
Right.
So, but that, by the way, he told me, you could choose between trans or intersex,
Yeah.
And I told him, I've lived the reality of an intersex person, and I still live it. And I've
Yes.
lived the reality of a trans
Of a
person. And
trans person.
I've lived the reality of as a woman, because
Yes.
University of Ibadan, oh my goodness, I give them kudos. That school did wonders. Or can I call it magic? They sat me down and said, this is the process. I have to live in my correct gender from UI. And they went as far as going to meet from Ibadan to meet my mom in Lagos, to talk, to meet my family, to have a dialogue with them. That school did.
And that is really important also for us to collect as history.
Yes.
That during that period, which year was that? When were you in Ibadan?
I entered Ibadan 2006. The school started mediation around 2008, 9, 10, within that time. And it was consistent.
Kudos
they
to
were
them.
consistent. And imagine a whole University of Ibadan, a whole school, a whole
that's a big
institution.
one, because it's one of the few universities known, when you talk about universities in Nigeria.
Coming to meet your parents, traveling all the way down to mediate, to talk. And even though there was still the brick wall, they just told me, give it time. They will come to accept. And I had to give it time.
Before you met the Global Rights, is it the Global Rights Initiative, the Zaharaddin and Fabeni, as an activist who has been here for decades, over time, I've worked with different activists from Nigeria, leading LGBTIQ organizations. We used to call them LGBTI. Now, around the period that you are discovering yourself, I know that organizations such as TIA had existed. There is another organization long time ago that was LGBTI for a comrade in a religious comrade, Davis Makiala. There was activists that we used to meet. And at that point when you were questioning, did you ever think, should I go to these LGBTI organizations? Were there services for intersex people or even trans people during that period? Or was it the case, like it was in the rest of Africa, where the T and the I was a decoration?
Okay. As to be honest with you, I never knew these organizations existed. So I was a lone wolf. What I knew existed was, the queer parties, hangouts. And being a shy person, I was not always going there, because you go there. Okay, the first time I went to one, I saw one particular person, very pretty like me. And that stood out for me. While the rest were all manly and all of that, and you see some ladies there and all of that. And then I saw Bisi Alimi. Yes.
Bisi Alimi, yes.
Yes. And I think Bisi Alimi.
You all comrades. You've done amazing work in Africa.
I saw Bisi Alimi. And in that meeting, Bisi Alimi was talking about condoms and, all of that.
Yes, and
I was the reason I'm using all of that, I'm using that all of it for a reason. Because back to them,
please,
how my mind was.
Stay with us. Who touched Max Emmanuella's internet? Please let it go. We need her. She's telling us a good story.
Can you hear me?
Now we do.
Okay. So basically I was like, wow. So there is this group. So what was in my head then was, so you mean that there are people who are gay and lesbian in this group? The word trans was not,
Yeah.
And that was my first and the last time. But that opened my eyes. I never knew that there were organizations. I never knew that there were, I never knew all of that. So I was more like on a personal journey.
Yeah.
There was this war with myself, war with my environment, and that meant I had to be strong. I needed to be strong. I made mistakes. There were times I would withdraw and then for my sanity, because it was too much. It was just too much at that time. Yes.
So you start TIP for human rights in Nigeria. You first started off with a Facebook page, you said?
Yes.
How do you move from there to DIHHR?
So then 2015, within 2013 and 2015, Zaradin Gambo and Stefano Fabeni were also, trying to get grants for the movement.
Yes.
And so we had the first meeting October 7. October 6 is when I was born. And so he wanted to make it like, okay, let it not be on your birthday, let it be a day after your birthday. So TIP for Human Rights in Nigeria moved from being a Facebook platform to a physical space on October 7th, 2015. From 2013, the advocacy was online for 2 years, and then the name was, we had this meeting, we had some activists from persons. And you know one thing, most trans persons, most intersex persons, they access services from organizations that rendered services for men.
Right.
You know what I'm talking? Yes. So it was new and it was challenging because it looked like as if you're competing. And I wasn't. I'm someone that I've worked in that light. I've worked in reality. I know what it is to be out of place. You're intersex. So I've lived in short 3 realities.
Yes.
Intersex, trans, a woman. So I've lived all, and it's a whole lot,
Yeah. And in that moment, you're thinking about others like you.
Exactly. Others like me. And from there, the organization started. We started doing some small, advocacies here and there. And then
what kind of issues were you dealing with in that moment as an organization, Dynamic Initiative for Healthcare and Human Rights?
So when it comes to homophobia, the trans community is a target.
We are the face.
Yes. Now, someone would have said, Ella, why didn't you just go for intersex programming and then just focus on that? Someone had told me that then.
It is very clear that trans and intersex issues were not really either a priority for earlier organizations like in most of our countries, or the organizations wanted to actually work on those issues, but were ignorant about those issues. It is also very possible that trans and intersex people, we did not come up and show up and say, here we are, because we were still traveling those journeys of self-discovery. But it is an achievement that across Africa, we are seeing the trans and intersex movement growing, organizations targeting and responding to the needs of trans and intersex people are being established in different countries. So it is an honor today to speak to somebody, to be in conversation with somebody who actually initiated the first intersex organization in Nigeria. And on this show, we have brought two other, I think, intersex activists. When I was working actively on the continent in the last, probably in the early 2000s, in the early 2000s and early 2010s, I assure you that there was not much done about intersex issues. There was not much done around trans issues. The trans movement was only heard of in South Africa and then Southern Africa, but later on in Africa, that today we have all these organizations in the various sub-regions working on these issues. So our history as trans and intersex people comes from very far, right from before organizing to date when we are organizing around these issues. And Mix Emmanuella was going to show us, because she is an activist who deals with the intersectionalities of our identities, and always wants to show how these identities, intersect with each other. She's a living example of somebody with those multiple identities in terms, of she has an intersex experience. She has also lived trans experience. She is a woman. She is so many things. And how you were telling us about this organizing. I had asked you a question about the kind of work and programming you were doing in the late 2000s and early 2000 when you started this initiative.
Yes, so it was so we're gathering human rights abuses, trying to correct narratives, and I love the way we were doing it then. I think we're doing it. I think some organizations are doing it now, addressing challenging narratives that stem from religious indoctrination, from people's personal biases, and then it was quite interesting, because that's when some persons started questioning their religion, their religious beliefs, and from there we did legal advocacy, and that cannot be that is a very strong point, because we realize that, or we know that behind every phobia against queer persons, there is a law.
Yes,
there is something backing it, and some of these laws may not see ahead of time that it's going to cost the life of people. They might think they are being overzealous and all of that. And so Dynamic Initiative had to come out, be the face and say, hey, intersex persons, trans persons are human beings. And then some persons wanted us to, like you say, when you're doing that, don't talk of gay people, don't talk of lesbian people. And then we understood intersectionalities. No, because an intersex person can have diverse sexual orientations and gender identity. So what are you saying? Somehow there's this ripple effect. Trans persons were the targets,
Yes.
And there was a poem. First they came for a group of persons, but because it did not concern me, I was quiet.
And
they came. Yes, we understand that being silent.
When they came for me,
nobody was around. Exactly. And so based on that, we built the foundation for Dynamic Initiative for human rights, health and human rights, that intersectionality, that common ground, that fact that, look, something connects us. Yes. The fact that you are not does not mean that the next person cannot be. So
Yes.
be very mindful, be very, and then somehow another thing is that we believe in creating allies.
Yes.
Allies.
Mm-hmm.
Because the queer community is not we are us versus them. No, we are
Mm-hmm.
living in the society. We are
Right.
living in the so there's the need for allyship is there. And how do you know your ally? Your ally is not someone that says that okay, Sha, just do your thing, but don't. No, your ally is someone that says, what if it's my child? Will I
Yes.
want my child to, and then that ally comes to that place of, yes, I don't care. If my child is a lesbian, a gay person, a trans person, an intersex person, I don't care. I will love my child and accept. So it's that was the foundation,
Right.
for
Right.
dynamic, that intersectionality, that inclusiveness of everyone, even though the foundation was built on intersex, trans, and all of that, but we understood the
Yes.
intersectionality around it. So,
Wonderful. And how has it been, Mix Emmanuella? How has it been for intersex people in Nigeria, especially? Do they easily find your organization? Are you have you been able to access them over the years? What is the growth like in terms of why this organization was put in place?
so yes, till date, we still get people reaching out to us. Now, let me
Yes.
give you, and one of the things we love doing is working with parents.
Yes.
Because now, like I said, for any executive director, for anybody that is at the top in some way, you cannot. I always look at some person that say they want to, what's the language? Separate themselves from the movement or separate themselves from the work. Somehow there will be some elements of your life in that work that you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw the need for including parents,
Mm-hmm.
including parents, including people. Let me give an
Right.
example. Some months ago, someone reached out to me, and it was about an intersex child
Mm-hmm.
who is 13 in Abuja,
Mm.
and the parents were confused because this child grew up as a boy. This child grew up as a boy, and
Mm.
um, and all of a sudden, by 13, the person started bringing out blood, and it
Yes.
was painful.
Like
Yes,
menstruation.
menstruation.
Right.
And someone connected me on Facebook,
Mm-hmm.
and then I said, I want to see the parents. I said, how are the parents? They said the parents are looking very confused. They don't know what to do. They've gone to doctors. Doctors have done surgeries upon that child, and
Mm.
it seems as if the surgeries are not going to end. I said, okay,
Mm-hmm.
let me see the child. Let me see you. They came to my place,
Mm-hmm.
and then there was an intersex person that reached out to me, who was born female, and along the line, it's very hard for we are trying to do advocacy with the NIMC, the national. This deals with um, what's the language again? This deals with
And I.
census. Yes, NIMC.
Okay.
Yes, please hold on.
Yeah. Mix Emmanuella there is.
The National Identity Management Commission. They deal with the identity of the citizens,
Yes.
and we are trying to work with them. We've been trying to work with them since then. We were successful with one case. We were successful with one person, I've been
What
successful
were
with some
you
persons
what were you seeking with that case?
changing their gender marker.
Okay. Which
Yes.
year was
And
that, Mix
that
Emmanuella?
was 2021,
Okay.
2020, 2021. Yes.
All right.
And then from there, we connected with some persons with the with the High Court, and I'm being careful with this information
Yes.
because of how far it could go. Oh, so this is what
Please.
people are doing. Oh, that kind of thing. So
Right,
I'm
right,
being,
right.
yes.
Only
So
what is safe to mention.
yes. So there was this intersex person that were able to reach out to us as an organization, and they needed a referral from us, and we reached out to them, wrote to them, and told them that this person identifies as a man and has intersex conditions, and we spelled it out. Please give the person, and we told them our organization. We focus on intersex persons, we focus on trans persons. Please give them every support. This is what they would need, so. And they were able to change their names and change their gender marker, And that was a success story.
Right.
Then for some trans persons, when we are talking to them, we tell them, I don't want to say it here, due to want to protect their identity.
The
And
identity is a
how,
part.
yes. And then we tell them what to do, behind closed doors. We tell them what to do and how to go about it, I was telling about an intersex person who reached out to me with the parents, and then
Yes.
the parents were talking about these issues. They were weeping before me. And when they were done, when you look at me, you would see a cisgender woman, you would see a cisgender person. And then when they were done, I just told them everything. I told them my story, and they were shocked. And they were asking me, how am I able to be so happy and bold, and how to take them through that journey, talk to them. And then they told me about how they showed me pictures of when the child was a boy, grown up as a boy. But the doctor saw a hole in between the elongated penis or penile elongation, and they sealed it up at birth. And I was angry. Like, why would they do that? And then when the child grew, as the child was growing, that penis was getting enlarged, and then the hole was not sealed properly. And so that is where the child was having the menstruation from.
I see.
And it was painful. It was painful. Now I had to ask the child, how do you identify? How do you, the child said, I feel like a guy, I feel like a boy. I said, look, don't say it because you are within the society. Don't say that, because just be free. Then the parents said something that got me happy. Parents said, look, if the child wakes up today and says that they feel like a lady, that will accept the child. And I was like,
amazing.
Really? And they said yes, because they have they said they poured out their mind. In short, I spoke with them for 2-3 hours. I had to dedicate my time on them.
And that was recently, like in 2025?
Yeah, 2025.
That's advancement. And from Africa?
Yes. And then I told them, I asked one question, how about their the bank, what do you call it? Bank accounts. And they told me what's up, and that they want to change the child's school, from where they were to the secondary school, because the child was in JS3, to second. And I said, you know what you're going to do? They'll have to calm down and relocate. I had to advise them on how to go about it, And then if they were going to open a bank account, they were going to have to tell them the process of going to open a bank account. But first and foremost, they should give the child within now and the next 2 years to come to terms with their gender identity.
Right.
So that when it's time for gender markers, when it comes to the issues of gender marker, they can know, okay, yes, I'm a female or I'm a male and all of that. But for now, so it's always that we take our time, we try to liaise with, that's why I said something about allies, creating allies. We try to liaise with some government officials who are open-minded. Right. We try to liaise with some court officials who are open-minded, So we connect. Yes, we didn't. I bet we don't want to make noise, or we don't try to say, hey, go to this place or come on social media to do it, because we know that some
Yeah.
persons who want to jeopardize it, some
Yes.
persons who want to
Use it
sabotage.
against.
Yes,
Yes. But
Meanwhile, we always want the advocacy. We believe in advocacies, targeting these groups so that when we all come to the table, like, okay, this is it. This is what, these are the issues. We don't believe in it's my right, bass boss. The only time we do that is after we have said, intelligently spoken with you, showed you everything, and then you're still willfully ignorant because you are angry or you hate this group of persons.
right.
Then we can take the alternative. But we always try to create narratives that are intelligent, narratives that make you think and say, wait, okay, let me give an example. Some persons use holy books to condemn
Right.
intersex persons. I know of someone that was telling me, someone told me then, you see, if I was in advanced countries, they would have detected that I was intersex and they would have aborted me or done, yes. And when this person told me this, I said, what did you say? As he said, I just said, okay, because the Bible says, and he quoted, God created them male and female. And after the person said that, I told them one thing. I said, that same Bible that you've quoted says that God brought out woman from Adam. That means Adam was intersex, and Adam had other diverse gender identities. And the person was like, what? And that is an intelligent conversation. And the person said, wait,
Yes.
I had never seen it that way,
Now they were seeing it.
They were saying it. So
Yeah.
we try to create narratives that, hey, sit down, take a chill pill. Don't carry the club and start bashing.
Okay.
Let's sit down and dialogue.
Thank you so much. Just one more question, Mix Emmanuella, and then we will go to the closing remarks. And that is from Queen Acapel. I hope I did justice to the name. And that one is watching from Facebook. Why are trans women often called gay and mistaken for gay men?
So there is a lot of work when it comes to gender identity. Gender identity is different from sex characteristics or sexual orientation. And most people don't know about gender identity. The trans movement, the trans person sort of received the backlash when it comes to homophobia. I think I initially made mention of that.
You made that, yeah.
Yes. They received that backlash from homophobia because, yes, they seem to be obvious, conspicuous,
Right.
And this stems from a place of ignorance. Ignorance of comprehensive sex education. That look, the world is not black and white. And even if it is black and white is made up of diverse colors. What makes the white color is red, green, blue, black, everything makes it white.
Yes.
So if looking at black and white, Dynamic Initiative is saying even that white you're looking as white has colors. It's made up of colors that makes it white. So we try to, the reason why trans persons, people believe that a trans woman should have breasts and should have gone through a surgery and all of that. No, that's the gender identity is female, and that is where knowledge comes in.
And that is who they are, no wonder how they are dressed.
Exactly.
No matter how they're dressed.
You ask me one question. What's an interesting thing about me? I love knowledge.
Yes.
Because with this knowledge, you can sit down and say, okay, there's a difference between a transvestite and a transgender. There's a difference. You can break it down. And most people they're tired of knowledge. They're afraid of knowledge.
Yeah.
They're afraid of challenging their their belief, what's
Yes.
what they think they know. They have been told 1 + 1 is 2, isn't it? They tell us 1 + 1 is 2 in.
That's right.
But as we graduate, they tell us X + 1 + Y + this. They start adding other variables to it. It is 20. That is how life is. We graduate
Yes.
from mathematics to further maths. We graduate from
Yeah.
simple mathematics to physics. And that is how life is. Some people look at it as, oh, why do you people want to make it so hard? No, that is just life. And we have to be open, like, okay, this person is, we have to just be open. And it's a pity that trans women face that backlash,
Yeah.
from.
Now, Mix Emmanuella, we're running out of time, yet we still had a lot. And I hope that we can have you back at some point. But it is very clear that the work you do is actually needed in Nigeria, and that some people are already benefiting from that work. You mentioned talking to parents. Is there a specific message or you have today for parents of intersex people today in Nigeria, Africa, and globally, or even for those who might become parents to intersex children in the future?
Yes, there
Please
is.
go ahead.
Some parents blame themselves. Some parents start questioning where they went wrong. You never went wrong. The only time you will go wrong is if you don't show that child love, then that's where you've gone wrong. If you go out, if you push that child out to the wolves to destroy, you have gone wrong. As a parent, we all want to carve our child into a path, forgetting that black sheep can be your savior. So don't, I will not guilt trip any parent, because
Yes.
I know how a parent, I know where my parents came from. Where they are now, they show me all the support. As a
Yes.
matter of fact, oh, we want your husband. They talk about who is going to be my husband. They talk about they ask me questions. They just try to know about my personal life. So as a parent, love your
That was
child. Love your child.
Love them, love them, love them. That's the only option. And we have heard of parents actually taking it upon themselves to do these surgeries to little kids.
No,
A quick message to
it's
parents
it's
of.
it's horrible. It's traumatic, because I just told you of a story of a child that went
Yes.
through that, and then somehow goes through pain. The parents are sad that they even allowed that. They never knew, they never knew. Allow that child to love themselves.
Yes.
You are beautiful, you're complete, you're
Yes.
whole. Words of affirmation
Yes.
build that child.
Yes, that is a message to parents that Mix Emanuela is giving. Do not tamper with your children's uh, bodies.
Bodies.
Yes, do not tamper, but just love them. Give them a chance to love themselves, and then later on work with them on what they actually mention as their needs. Is that right?
Yes.
Next Manuel,
Beautiful.
yes. Let them be
Beautiful.
a part of the decisions. Do not
Let them be a part
make
of the decision.
decisions
Let them be a
without you.
part of it.
Yes. And so, yes, if you're Chabi Guamango, they say that hot things end quickly in my language. And this is, she's off. But anyway, Mix Emanuela, we are very happy to have had you today. Thank you so much for your voice, for your vision, and for not just walking through life for yourself, but building pathways for the rest of us to walk through. And I think that is what I believe that's what you're doing in Nigeria for trans, intersex people and others, because you care about humanity. And to our audience, thank you for watching, for listening. Please share this conversation. Follow THRIN on YouTube, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and also go to our website for more of such stories and other collections of trans and intersex histories we have done. And that is trans and intersex history.africa. We'll be back here next Friday, and we will continue to uplift African trans and intersex history, because it is still being met. So from all of us at THRIN, au revoir until next Friday. Bye-bye.